sounds are he and him. And I want to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I want to thank them for having care of these lands and waters since time out of mind. Welcome to the unceded territories. Welcome to Vancouver Film School's Storyteller Studio, AMA Live. And the subject of today's talk is finding success as an actor in the video game industry. So make some noise and or raise your hand if you want to work in video games. Anybody want to work? We have an incredible guest today, Julia Bianco Schoeffling.
Yeah.
Co-founder and COO of the Houghton Network, W. William Chip Beeman, that's a partner, author of The Art and Business of Acting for Video Games, casting director specializing in voice and performance capture. I'll tell you a little bit more about Julia. Julia is the author of The Art and Business of Acting for Video Games, the industry's first such guide. Julia is also the casting director and CEO of the Houghton Network, specializing in voice and performance capture for future technology, including video games, AR, VR, new media, location-based entertainment, and beyond. Her casting credits include, and buckle up if you're a fan of video games, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, Cyberpunk 2077.
Wow.
Anybody here watch HBO?
Yeah.
You know a little show called Westworld?
Yeah.
Guess who worked on it? Awakening VR, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, Medal of Honor, Above and Beyond VR, and Tell Me Why, featuring the first playable transgender character in a video game. Of BAFTA and has been featured in the Los Angeles Times, Backstage, and Wired magazine.
Hey.
Doubly lucky, because our host is also incredible and happens to work with us closely at Vancouver Film School. Charles Douglas, everyone. In addition to being a dear friend and colleague of mine, Charles is a movement director, a teacher, and researcher. He's senior instructor for body process within the acting program at VFS, where he leads performance capture. A fellow of the RSA and Chevening alumnus, Charles holds an MA in movement, directing, and teaching with distinction from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. His practice and research explore the intersection of movement, technology, and bodies.
Oh. Yeah.
For Julia Bianco Schoeffling and Charles Douglas, please.
Hello, folks. Welcome. Hey, great to see you all. You all passed the course. Good to see you. Good to see you. And thanks for being here, Julia. Yeah, they get a passing grade.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here. Thanks so much for making the
Thank you
time.
for having me.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here.
I'm sure these people have 1 million questions for you. You're going to have to wait just a little while before we do the Q&A. First, we're going to chat a little bit. And I wanted to ask you first about your book, which Omari was mentioning. I know some of you have bought it, have even brought copies of the book. Maybe we can talk a little bit about signing some of those copies.
Absolutely.
And I wondered if you might tell us just a little bit about the process of writing the book and now sharing the book with the world and what that's been like for you.
Thank you. So, hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I think this school is amazing, and I'm just really excited to be here. I started writing the book December 2020, and it took me about a year to write. And the reason I wrote it is because I kept finding that I was repeating myself. I started teaching some classes, and I spent a lot of the beginning of my classes lecturing about games in general, and found that if I could just kind of get over that stuff, we could actually start talking about the acting and what we're looking for in our auditions and all that things. But there's so many technicalities that aren't spoken about, especially because so many games are developed in so many different ways by different people and regions. And so I just wanted to start standardizing it a little bit to make it a little bit easier for us on the receiving end of auditions, and so that your auditions are landing successfully. So it took me about a year to write and then about a year to make into a book. and because there's editing and design and all that fun stuff. And now it's out in the world, and I'm so happy to have it in people's hands, and it seems like it's useful and helpful, and so here we are.
It's a great book, I must admit. I read an earlier draft of it and thought it was amazing even then. And I've heard so many students in the hallway or even in the washroom just a moment ago saying, I'm on chapter 2, and chapter 2 is really important because it starts talking about this. So I hear that it's landing in a wonderful
Yay.
way. What has been the experience of seeing people read it and start to talk to you about it or start to have that conversation begin with you?
It's a little overwhelming, mainly because I am not typically the center of attention. As a casting director, I like to be behind the scenes. I'm always puppeting and pointing and directing attention elsewhere. So it's been a little bit of a challenge for me to get in front of the camera and things. But I do feel it's worth it. And I'm very passionate about trying to make sure that people are heard and people are given opportunities, and especially in this world that's really heavily gate kept, both on the casting side and the game side. So it's been wonderful that people are even finding it useful. That I'm finding people who are interested in it from other areas, other places. People posting it from everywhere, and I'm just excited to. I just wanted to help people, so I just want people to book jobs.
That's wonderful. And I really appreciate the work you do to open up the industry and to make things more transparent and to give people an opportunity. And so I wonder if you might speak a little bit about that, about the book as being an opportunity for folks to maybe understand new terminology, to nail those first auditions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think games are gate kept in general because it's just a very hard, big industry to get into. And acting is gate kept in general because it's a hard, big industry to get into. So you combine the two and it makes it almost impossible. And as a casting person who's constantly being asked for authenticity, my goals and what the industry has given me were not matching up. And so adding the tools and some of the language and even just the places to look and the people to see and where to learn, I will hopefully prepare talent from everywhere, and even talent that isn't able to come to a wonderful school like this, to be able to be prepared for at least the beginning of the process and to not be discouraged by it.
Yeah, it's removing barriers, and giving people a chance.
Yes.
And so I wonder if you might speak a little bit more about that, about the positive changes that are happening in PCAP. You're a huge part of that, I must say. Omari was just mentioning the game that you cast recently, and I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the positive way that that industry is changing.
Yes, I'm so thrilled that there's a much bigger focus on authenticity and representation in games. We're still very far behind where we need to be, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth and change. In our casting briefs, we're often asked for authenticity in like a almost too specific way. And some of what we've been trying to do is cultivate our clients to be able to leave a little bit of room open for the actors who are auditioning as well to bring some of their culture into the roles. We're also seeing that we're having many more opportunities for non-white actors to play white roles, which is definitely something that we're trying to make sure that becomes more even as we try to even out the systematic oppression that has happened for non-white actors until now. The game industry is still spread. It's not all doing casting one way. It's not all going through casting directors. There's still a lot of people who are doing things themselves. And so each production is different, but we are making a lot of advancements in also sensitivity reading, cultural consulting, and inviting people in at the beginning part of the process so that the writing and the representation is accurate before it ever even gets to the actors. So I don't think I answered that fully properly.
It was a wonderful answer. Not only looking at that moment of casting, but the whole process and how sort of systems need to change to support more equitable processes.
Absolutely. Well, tell me why it was before there was a lot of effort from the casting services to figure out how to handle trans actors. And they've gone through a few different iterations of how they want to handle that in terms of how you can select on like a breakdown services, what you're looking for. And with Tell Me Why, I found that there just really wasn't access to agents who had enough representative talent to be even able to fill the castings for the role, let alone pick someone. And so luckily the client was very open to putting more effort into A, the search, and B, coaching once they get the role, which is something that they're very used to doing on TV or in film, but not in games. And so once clients are, once these game makers realize that they can have authenticity and they can use a little bit of coaching or booth practice in order to get these actors' skills up to par with what, maybe somebody who's been in the booth 100 times, they're a lot more open to finding more representative talent.
It's another barrier there, eh?
Another barrier.
Maybe you find the right person for the role, but then it's something about coaching them so that they're ready to meet the game.
I mean, for a AAA game today, you are often expected to complete 200 lines in a 4-hour voiceover session. And that 4-hour voiceover session, and those 200 lines, a line is equal to 7 to 10 words. So that is not unusual. That is what we set our kind of scheduling meters to, is 50 lines per hour. And that's average. If you're doing, something that is got some time sync or some picture, it's going to be less than that. If it's going to be efforts, and some of those things, it's going to probably be more than that, but you want to limit the amount of time. But that's hard to keep up with. It's hard to do 200 lines in 4 hours. And so there is an access issue, but then there's, there has to be a skill to keep up with the demand and the
Absolutely.
need.
And with the book and also with casting, I hear in a way we're talking a bit about discoverability.
Yes.
And I wonder if you might speak a bit about, finding folks who are right for these projects and how actors can get their names and their work out there.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of the internet. Prior to even casting, I'm a Googler. You can ask anyone that knows me that if I don't know something, I will immediately go to Google and start searching for it. So the first thing that I tell you to do in the book, and the first thing I'm always telling you to do, is Google yourself, especially as an actor who may have a common name. It's huge. You want people like me to be able to Google you and see where you come up. And so basically putting effort into working on those search results is one of the first things I tell actors to do so that they can make sure that they are found. There are places that you should be, like the casting sites, the IMDb's. They vary. Casting sites vary, obviously, for regions, but IMDb is kind of a ubiquitous with actors, even if it's not necessarily where we're hiring from. And then Instagram. And as much as that seems crazy, I have cast at least 5 to 10 people on Instagram for union and non-union work. Hashtags and authentically representing yourself through those is a great way to do that, especially when we're looking for talent that may not be represented. I mean, that's the biggest area we're hiring from Instagram, is when they don't have a rep, but occasionally then we do find talent on there that has reps and we just end up going through there. Make sure you're accessible on all those things. Have an email address so that we can write you directly and not try to go through a contact form or a DM. Check your DMs. I DM people all the time.
And in a way, as we're speaking about discoverability, we've spoken a little bit about being an entrepreneurial creative and sort of the opportunity to do that in this 21st century and with these new technologies of performance. And I wonder if we might speak a bit about the entrepreneurial side of this, of being an actor.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think every actor should be thinking about themselves as an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, you are, responsible for all of those items on that checklist, from finance to biz dev to everything. And but I also think with acting as, I don't remember what I was just going to say, and I lost myself. Sorry.
No worries at all. Sort of two things I think about entrepreneurship.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So if you can treat it like a business, if you can make sure that you're doing your outreach, making sure that your marketing is on par, making sure that you're networking, and especially adding those things to your daily checklist, it also helps offset the kind of, I think, the in-between. Because there is a lot of time when you're not auditioning and you're not in class where you need to be still working on those other aspects. It doesn't all have to be money. It can be stuff you're doing on your own, but working on your own content, including games. If you have, anyone that is making games around you, both at this school or any other schools, offering your services to them, being able to find global game jams or anywhere else where they're making games and trying to get yourself into them, and then also making your own content, because the world is our oyster now, and there's so much information out there. There's so much access to content to be made, that showing initiative that you are kind of keeping busy while still looking for your acting jobs is great.
Yeah. And I wonder if we might offer these students a little bit more in that vein in terms of this new world of collaboration and these new opportunities for folks in terms of VR and AR and voiceover and performance capture and mocap, and it's exploding right now. It's
exploding, and I think people who are prepared to be on motion capture stages and in VO booths, whether you're an actor or a filmmaker or director, a PA, being approachable and kind and adaptable and flexible in those sets is going to bring you all of the opportunity in the world. People want to hire people they want to work with. People they want to hang out with, and if you can be, professional, hardworking, and flexible, you will succeed.
And we've talked a little bit about maybe there's some peculiar things for folks who are working in performance capture and motion capture. It's a very humble medium. And I feel like we're talking about that a little bit. I wonder if we might speak about that a bit.
Yeah, I think there is a misconception that performance capture is a fit man's sport, if you will. And there are a lot of roles in performance capture for all bodies. But when you do get on a performance capture stage, you are in a Lycra jumpsuit. So it does not hide. And there are a lot of untrained on the skills of speaking about bodies professionals on a stage. So there's definitely a learning curve there that, again, being flexible and kind, but doesn't mean being a pushover, and it does mean you stand up for yourself, but being flexible and kind is definitely helpful in those situations. Unfortunately, there's, yes, like I said, a big learning curve, but I think being comfortable in workout clothing is what you should be. You should feel comfortable in workout clothing if you want to be on a performance capture stage, but you should not be worried about being super muscular or in fit, or there are certain jobs that require certain athletic abilities, but those are those specific jobs, and most of them require things like walking and sitting and talking. So.
Yeah, and PCAP is really opening up to all kinds of folks. It's really a diversity of stories being told now, eh?
Thank goodness. Yes, we are opening up PCAP to all ethnicities, lots of all gender, all bodies. We're not just looking for the Hollywood A-type actor anymore. They are definitely telling stories from every different part of the world, and we're looking for authentic actors to represent those stories.
And I wonder if you might speak a little bit about sometimes folks are doing VO and they're doing PCAP. Sometimes folks are only doing some of the mocap work, and sort of differentiations there.
Yeah, I think an actor is an actor. And I think to be prepared in this future of technology, you should be able to move your performance seamlessly from a stage like this into a VO booth and onto a performance capture stage. I think as technology is all kind of converging and IP is converging, it's likely that we will see actors need to be in all of those places for the same IP. And so I think it's really important to understand how to reach that same performance in all those different kind of media capture places.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. And we've spoken a little bit about the volume being the place where a lot of disciplines are meeting now, a lot of different artists, a lot of different practices, different technologies. And I wonder if you might speak a bit about that, about this place where IP and projects are all coming together.
Yeah, the performance capture stage is such a wonderful place because you've got so many technicians in the same area working on so much power. Just even even just when you've got like 8 facial capture rigs going at the same time and the people that are dealing with those, there's so much collaboration on those sets. I think whether you're in the director's chair, whether you're in the PA chair, whether you're the makeup artist, everyone has a role on those, and they're making influential decisions, and they're participating in the progress of this art form. There's definitely some cool technology crossovers that are happening on PCAP stages, and there's definitely a lot more like film happening on, with Unreal Engine and Epic grant funds and things like that, where we're, finally casting for film, but it's actually animated film, and they're doing PCAP and things like that, and they're looking for actors who can do that.
Cool. And you were saying actors who can act and who can translate a performance. And you were also speaking a little bit about things that people might do in their spare time, being entrepreneurs. I wonder, what are you looking for when an actor is auditioning? What are those things that you're hoping for?
I want to see you having fun. That is an underrated option. I think making sure that you are having a good time and enjoying yourself is probably number one. We often are looking for full body for performance capture. We want to see your legs moving. We want to see how you can walk for animation purposes. We liked for you to stage it almost like a play if you can. Sometimes there will be specific framing on your audition, and in that case you would want to make sure that you're following directions. That would be number one. But even still, in acting, all rules can be broken. And so even if my direction says full body and you submit something that has, just upper body, but it's a phenomenal performance, at the end of the day, my job is to bring the best actor. And so they will know that it's not full body because they see the other full bodies. But again, if the performance is the top, it's the top, and that's sometimes what happens. So I don't, as much as I say follow directions, I also have to follow it up with sometimes we accept them even when you haven't, because it's so good. But you have to be that good, so don't make it so that's your thing.
Make your job easy.
Yeah.
Make your job easy for yourself.
Exactly. But being able to kind of, map it like a play, block it like a play, really walk into the room, sit down in the chair, get up and walk to the window. All of those things really bring those scenes to life, even when they don't have any of that direction on there. That is what makes a difference between a TV actor, honestly, auditioning for performance capture and someone who knows what to put in a performance capture audition.
Very cool. And I confess we were just speaking about this a little bit today in our T5 PCAP course. So could you speak a little bit about these scripts and how they're maybe non-existent, or how they're in development, or how they're not necessarily what you're looking for in a film script necessarily? So
these characters that you are auditioning for games are not final. They are in progress, to say the least, as well as the scripts. So nothing is locked, nothing is definite. They have probably some technological limitations that are definite, but there's a lot of flexibility on the development side a lot of times with these characters, and it may mean that something might change halfway through. It may mean that something gets scrapped or recast. It may mean that, an element of the design is totally changed, and that may change what you need to reshoot. So there is, unlike a film where a budget is set at the top, games are constantly reaching milestones to then get their next approval to keep being made, because, you can't just say this is going to look cool. It has to function cool, and it has to be playable, and we have to like it, and it has to be fun. And all those things really have nothing to do with the acting. And so a lot of the acting stories, a lot of the scripts, a lot of the bios, all of those are very fluid. And so a lot of times actors who want to get to like the meat of a role will ask questions, and the answer can very well be, I don't know, or we haven't figured that out yet.
And would you say then that there's an opportunity in PCAP perhaps for folks to participate in the authorship of this story and the authorship of the role, to make contributions, not in an ownership way, but in a collaborative way?
Yeah, I think one of the pieces that I've been trying to evangelize to game developers is that kind of what I mentioned before, is like not making it so specifically authentic that it doesn't leave room for the actors to bring themselves into the role. And I think it was kind of like a expansion, and now we're contracting a little bit. I think they're figuring out how exactly to be able to pull life experience and inspiration from the actors that we're actually casting as well.
It's interesting, eh? There's definitely a move going on in terms of how do you best set up that person in the suit to contribute? And you were talking about language in the volume and even the way technology is changing. You've spoken and written wonderfully about the evolution of acting for these mediums, and I think that's related. And so I wonder, what are your reflections about acting in performance capture right now, where it's at, what people are doing, what people are saying?
I think there's a lot of focus on motion capture, and one of the biggest distinguishers I like to make is that motion capture, when we're referring to it in game, is typically not including face or voice. It's typically just body only, and I think a lot of the training is for motion capture is in that realm. And fortunately or unfortunately, those roles and those characters are typically stunt things, and they're hired directly by the kind of mocap stages, and they don't go through casting directors for these kind of stunt roles. So that is kind of being able to distinguish between performance capture and motion capture is a big important piece of this.
Yeah, and so PCAP being more
voice and face
Yeah.
and potentially even fingers. And then we're doing a lot more like grounded performances. It's a lot more acting as you're used to in traditional media. And it's those performances that you'll need to pull then into the VO booth. There are some fun creature things. There are some like ethereal, it's games. So we always have like some characters that are larger than life. But if you look at, the Call of Duties and the even the Last of Us or the Uncharted series, those all are pretty grounded performances, and they're looking for grounded acting.
I love your use of grounded. I don't love using the word filmic to describe it because it is different.
Yeah.
It is different, but there's something going on there in terms of expectations and acting. Yeah, interesting. And then I wonder, so these folks are beginning to approach these media, are thinking about them, are excited about them, and they're navigating that. Maybe they're used to seeing film and television, and now they're looking at mocap and PCAP, they're looking at games, interactive media. What sort of advice would you give to them as they're sort of navigating this language, this practice?
YouTube. There's so much BTS footage on YouTube. It's really incredible. So just kind of deep diving, both on the film side as well. Some of the material that I use in my classes comes from the Avengers, I think. And there's a lot of BTS mocap footage or performance capture footage on the YouTubes. So I would definitely dive into that. But really, it's focusing on being embodied, living in your body, knowing what your body does, knowing how your hands connect to your arms, connect to your shoulders, connect to your head. And I know that sounds weird, but when I'm in an audition setting and I ask an actor to walk across the room and just do their walk, you would be surprised how many people are like, wait, what? And is it your walk? Is it your character's walk? All of those things. And sometimes wrists are not attached to arms, and people just are not aware of those things. And especially if you've spent a significant amount of time in the VO booth, because you've trained your body to move less and to put your whole performance into this voice and into the microphone. And now we're asking you to do the exact opposite for half the time.
Wow. And so there's something there about practice and being embodied and reflection on self. And I wonder too, as these folks are thinking about all the media that are to come, all the interactive things, and I know you work in VR as well, maybe you can open their eyes a little bit as to what's going on in that world.
I think, as I mentioned, that everything's converging. And so I do see a lot of IP kind of needing actors to be able to perform the VR as well as the TV show. And I think it's more often that the TV folks will bow out of a VR project, then they'll be on the TV show, and then they may not do the VR project, and you pull in someone else. But I think just actors being prepared to walk into a stage and know to not touch the technology. I think actors being prepared to show up maybe with some undergarments on before they put on their, mocap suit.
Please.
I mean, like even just shorts and a t-shirt, because that stuff is, it's really tight. And even just showing up at a audition and wearing athleisure instead of wearing what your character would wear, things like that, make a huge difference for us. Just reading the book and following all those little things, I think will make all of the casting directors who are working on this stuff really excited to have people who are walking in ready and doing the things that they're already looking for.
Yeah, and there's amazing fundamentals and things and language like that in the book, I must say. And then folks are trying to build their careers. And you talked about things like game dev conferences or opportunities to work with another student, or maybe you're volunteering your time for dev for a project. And I wonder if you might sketch out for them just some of the ways that you've seen people build experience, get their name out there.
Yeah, I mean, networking is everything, and knowing the industry, knowing the games that are coming out, even if you're not playing them actively, knowing who does what and where will get you far, and being willing to work on smaller things, student projects. Your peers are the ones that will end up hiring you. I think that was like in college, probably the biggest thing I did not realize is that going to college in a place like Los Angeles or Vancouver means that you're going to have so many peers that are going to help you out when you are all of age and finally making, your career goals come true. And so being able to make projects with your peers is absolutely like one of the best things you can do. If you look around, half of these people will be in a position to hire you at some point. One of my interns is now one of my best clients. And so you just never know. And treating everyone, especially the people around you now, as your peers and working with them to reach that next level is the goal.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You were saying being someone who people want to work with, who they want to hang out with, treating people that way. And we're also living in a really digital world. And so I wonder if you could sketch out for these students and actors who are emerging in the industry, what that component of that looks like. You had mentioned social media footprint and things like that.
Yeah, it's not about the numbers, but we need to know you exist there, especially for, quick verification. But it's also just so important for networking. I have met several actors that I have ended up kind of befriending because of Instagram, because of social media, because, it's not a concerted effort on their part to always be sliding into my DMs, but it's more like posting things about your life that you're doing, that you're interested in, and I happen to find them interesting as well. That's going to form a natural connection between two humans. It's not a casting director actor. It's, hey, that thing you just did was really cool. Hey, that project is amazing. And then all of a sudden we've got a rapport, and I think of that person when this thing comes up. It is true that you audition the room. Every single audition is for people who will end up somewhere else and will be in a position to hire at some point. And so as long as you keep getting those auditions, that's your reminder that you're doing a good job. But yeah, just being active. I wouldn't say like so active on social media that it's everything you ate for breakfast. It's more than just your acting stuff, though. It's what makes you a human, what makes you tick, and showing that side of you as well. You never know when there's something that might come up in your profile that might be something we are actually looking for, a basketball player or someone who with familiarity with chess or someone who can surf, and you just showed a picture of you at the beach with your friend.
It's beautiful. I hear authenticity being something across your practice, that you're looking for people who are authentic in relationships, authentic in the characters, authentic in their work. It's beautiful. I wonder, I know we're coming up on our Q&A time. Forgive me, we're in our Q&A time. I wonder if before we jump into it, I was going to ask you, what are you excited about next? What are the questions that you have now at this moment? What are the things you're looking forward to?
I'm really excited for the next generation of games and interactive products. I think we're really on the edge of some very cool things, especially that kind of blur those lines. Even just silly little things like Battle Kitty on Netflix, where you're choosing your own kind of path and, interacting with the TV show. Like, that's just such a small glimpse of what we're going to be able to do with some of these interactive game properties. And as that converges with the authenticity and representation, we're just going to have some really incredible stories and interactive products coming very soon. So I'm excited about a lot of that. And hopefully some of this, this epic game money that's going into all these like grant funded stuff will show the film industry and how much opportunity there is on this side of things as well.
Oh, really exciting. And so we're into our Q&A time. I do want to be good with time. And so I would love to invite some questions. And I think maybe how we'll do it is maybe I can come and offer a mic and so that you can sort of be heard by everyone in the room, hopefully, as well as having this chat with Julia.
Sounds good.
And so I'll come a little closer. I know I'm wired, but I'll bring my way up here. And I can also repeat the question if that's most comfortable for people to stay seated. So I want to invite some Q&A. Go ahead. Yeah? Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was watching an interview you had with the LA Times. It was fantastic, but I noticed you were on the Jim Henson set. And I was wondering, like I don't know if you know who Ace Ruel is, you probably know, and with Creature Bionics and things like Dark Crystal, how do puppets come into the performance capture world? And for someone who's interested in getting into that side, what would you recommend beyond Instagram and all that?
Cheers.
Puppets is a whole world. Yeah, so there's some specific puppet agents, and that is honestly the place to look is at the specific puppet agencies. I know one of the biggest ones is CESD, and they rep puppeteers. There's a big crossover with voiceover and puppeteers, obviously, because a lot of them do the voices. But then there is also this like kind of motion capture puppeting as well. That is definitely the stunt side. So the voiceover hand puppets are the one side, and then there's like the motion capture stunts, and that's a separate thing. And unfortunately, that side is typically just cast by the studios themselves, like the House of Moves or a Digital Domain or those kind of bigger stage beyond, would do it themselves.
Shout out to Beyond Capture Studios.
Yes.
Another question? Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
scream.
Shall I repeat your? Yeah.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Jim.
Hi. What advice would you give to actors dealing with rejection, going out on auditions and not being able to get jobs right away?
Thank you for that question. Unfortunately, in the career of acting, it is a large part of it, and there's very little feedback. But as I was saying, receiving additional auditions, especially from the same place, means that you did a good enough job to get the next one. We do not send auditions out to people who we did not like the first time. If we do it a second time and we don't like it a second time, we definitely won't send it the third time. So the fact that you continue to get those auditions means that you're doing your job as an actor, and your job is to audition. So I think being able to let it go afterwards and know that I love this idea. We have a colleague, Kritzia Bajos, who always talks about your store, and it's your own personal store, and you have everything you can give from this store. If they don't want to shop at your store today, that's their fault. That's their problem. It's not the case, it's your store, and whether or not they have a taste for that store on that day has no bearing on whether or not your store has a good product. So just keeping that in mind.
That's beautiful. And nice to meet you. Okay. Yes, Omar.
I can project also. For totally unbiased purposes, could you talk to our students about the virtues of things like voice training, movement, and the benefits of theater?
I absolutely can.
Thanks, Omari.
So I absolutely think that theater training is probably the most accurate and helpful for performance capture because of projection, because of using your body, because you want the people in the back of the stage to know what's happening, and because of collaboration and because of commitment and hard work and all those things. Those will all kind of lead into success on the performance capture stage. But you may have to go from that performance capture stage where you got the script last night and have to be off book today to the voiceover booth tomorrow and knock out those 200 lines. So being able to handle all of those things and still trying to embody that character in all those places, those are essential pieces to acting for games.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you all heard that clearly, right?
Notes are being taken. Good to see. I saw a hand. Yes. Would you like to?
I can project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, for first-person gaming, like you can see the face, but it's a lot of hand work and everything. How does the audition for that work?
I would guess that most where you're just seeing the hands, they're hand keying that. They're probably not going to mocap just the arms. Most of what they're spending the money for full, because it's expensive, and it's not even just the shoot day, it's the cleanup of the data that's very expensive, but it's faster than hand keying all that stuff as long as you get good data. But in order to on like full cinematics or maybe like some in-game kind of rendered cinematics where they're playing like a little bit but you can move the camera a little bit, those are more often going to be motion captured than just the arms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers. Yes.
I had to write mine down just so I actually can conjure the question.
I love it.
All right. During the casting process, if you have multiple people that you like that would be great for a role, what decision is made for the final casting? Like, what is the final say?
This is such a good question, and I've never had it before. I just have to tell you that. It's a really good question. And I apologize for the answer. Well, first things first, casting does not make the decision. So I curate the menu. I do not make the decision. And I actually really love that. It's one of my favorite parts. If I feel very strongly about something, I will make sure to say my piece. But for the most part, if I've handed you an audition, it's because I think that they can do the job and they can do it well. And I usually hand 10-ish over for something, 15 to 5, but 10-ish over for any role. It is my goal to have you want more than one actor. So it's my goal for all 10 of those to be representative of what you're looking for, and then it's just a flavor or a specific. The reason I said that I'm not thrilled with my answer is there's a lot of technicalities that make decisions in games. And I can literally tell you, I was in callbacks last week, and the notes were the asymmetrical shapes from the mouth would be hard to clean up. So there are some things that you just don't have control over, and that's okay. You do you, and if they want it, they will take it. But there are little things like that. Eye shape, how it depends on if you're doing scanning for likeness, if you look like the character, or if you're trying to put the actor onto an already existing model. One face might translate just a little bit faster, better, easier, and so they might go with that one because the performances are. But the performance will typically be the thing that leads, and they'll make concessions on any of those other things for the best performance. But there are a lot of technicalities involved in making the actual decision. Sometimes it's schedule, sometimes it's rate, availability. All of those can play a factor into those things too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
project too.
Yeah.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
What advice, you talked a lot about like gatekeeping. So like what advice, if any, would you give to someone who really loves the games that a particular studio is putting out and would really love to be involved and they just don't use casting directors, or maybe they don't even do audition?
I have mixed thoughts on this. It depends on how big the studio is. If you're talking about an indie studio, they'd probably be thrilled with the fandom, if you will. If we're talking about Naughty Dog, it's hard to get their attention. I think it's hugely beneficial to work in games if you are considering a career in games. But it is also really hard to go into a dev studio and then have them consider you an actor after the fact. Networking in the places where the game devs are is definitely underrated, but it's also like you have to have the right temperament, personality, ability to like not be in someone's face when they are doing a million other things, but also be there when they just happen to be free. And so there is a balance there. But I do think that unlike film and TV where there's so much, there's tons of fandom in game, but there's a lot of hate too. And I think devs at the end of the day are just so thrilled to see actors bring their works to life that they appreciate the fan. You know, they appreciate someone who appreciates their game. And so you just have to get to the right person and say the right things to be able to make sure that they can know that appreciation. I hope that helps.
I see some half hands. I see a confident hand there.
I've already asked, so
Yeah.
else wants.
I think I saw a hand over there. Yes? Would you like the microphone? Or?
No, it's okay.
Okay, cheers.
Project.
Yeah.
Really nice to meet you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I was wondering, like, every day this fascinating industry, it's growing and it has limitless potential, right? So I was wondering how it is for us multiple talented actors, like that can sing, that can dance, that can play instruments, and how these things how can we fit into that growing industry, if that's like, if there's more possibilities for us to work on that, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Make sure we know that information about you. We are often hiring for people with skills like that. A perfect example is about a year ago, we did a live concert for League of Legends, like within this Wave XR thing. It was a VR live stream concert where the whole band was mocapped. And so they needed guitar players that could legit look like they were playing the guitar appropriately. They needed a lead singer in a mocap suit. And so I fortunately got to cast, and we cast a real band actor, an actor who was also the head lead singer in a band. So those things, as we want to know it, you have to make sure it's in your bio. You have to make sure that it's even in your like Instagram bio, you know, make sure that those special skills are known. I can tell you have an accent. Make sure we know what languages you speak. Languages are so underrated. Bilingual actors, you are so valuable. We spend so much time, especially in America, like in the US, like telling people to get rid of their accents to all this, but then we're going searching for the authenticity. Like, you have two skills. Like, you speak two languages. I only speak one. Like, you are more value. Like, you have more value, more skills than someone that just speaks one language. And so don't let anybody tell you that that's a negative. But we need to know. We need to know it exists, that you exist, that you have those skills. Make sure they're in even your IMDb bio and things like that, so that we can find that information. And when you list it on the casting sites, make sure that they're tagged, because, you know, if I'm casting a football game and I need extra people, I search football.
I have another question.
Please.
Like, what do you think about us as a actors producing our own voice demos and sending it out to you like cold? You know what I mean? Because
Yes. I'm not sure that my opinion is representative of the industry, but I am accessible always because of the gatekeeping. And so I have a place on my website where actors can just submit. And at my leisure, I go through, and when people are appropriate for projects, I may reach out. But I try to make it so that you can reach me 24/7 for that, in terms of like getting it into the database, and that you can access, and I will see your stuff at some point. We get a lot. We get a lot. So before you do anything cold, you want to start making sure that you develop relationships. I have no problem with you doing your own VO demo. I think VO demos in general are a little bit archaic because they were kind of made before the internet and your own personal websites. And so we don't need you to have a highly produced demo. We need you to have available clips that we can listen to. So if you can have a player on your website that has untreated clips, if you have a sample from your own booth, what it sounds like, any of that stuff is great for us to listen to. And then you can transfer out those characters as you get better. And you can replace them with, your stronger characters. And then you're not, laying out $3,000 every time to get this fancy demo. Eventually you get a demo, but you don't need to do it at first. You can definitely work with the samples. And doing it yourself is totally fine. Just don't overproduce. We want to hear your voice. We don't want to hear the bells and whistles.
Yeah, and then maybe back to you, Omari. David?
My voice is not able to project today. Hi, Julia.
Hi.
First of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I'm more than halfway through it.
Yay,
It's really
thank
good.
you.
I wanted to ask, and I apologize if this question is confusing because I'm still formulating it in my head, but as an actor who wants to go to video games, but not exclusively video games, I know that in your book you mentioned the importance of wearing many hats, especially early in the process of like indie games, stuff like that. Like, how important is it to know about all the process of a video game? I myself consider myself very technologically challenged. I'm not very good with stuff like that. So should I like know more about it, or is it just like with knowing the acting aspect, is that enough, as to say?
You reading my book, honestly, is more than a lot of people will do. So I think by reading it, you will have a lot of the info already that you need. I don't think you have to go more beyond that. I think none of the stuff will book you the job, but it may help you understand what's in the sides a little bit more. At the end of the day, commercials is what pays money. Video games is more for the soul and for the fun and for the platform. I don't like to be shy about the fact that like it doesn't compare to the commercial money. So it's okay that you only want to do it as an aspect. I think that's good. I think it should be a tool in an actor's tool belt. It shouldn't be the whole belt. And I think that's exactly why I wanted to put it into a book form, so that people who wanted a little bit of information but you don't have to do anything more. By reading it, you've done the acting for video games piece in your tool belt, and then you can move on to your voiceover stuff or whatever other things you want to focus on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Omari?
I had a question, but now it inspired a comment, if I may.
Yes.
'Cause we were kind of joking about this backstage, but I want to give you guys some context that like doesn't pay well as a relative term.
Yes.
Can I speak?
Please.
Can I talk rates? So you make $200 an hour to do performance capture. So if you look at an 8-hour day.
$200 an hour is voiceover, but yeah, 800 to 1,000 a day for performance capture. Yeah.
800 to 1,000 a day. So if you break that down to like a regular job, like a 5-day, like that's like doctor money, right? And as somebody who comes from a theater background, and Charles and I were laughing about this, I'm always dumbfounded when actors are like, oh, I'm only making $1,200 today. Like, that's pretty good money. Like, if you have a real, like in a real world, you know, that's a lot of money. You can make a very good living. Like, sure, it's not like I did a Nike commercial and they gave me, you know, 50 grand for a day money, but this is actually a sustainable, like, the video game industry dwarfs film, television, and music combined. And people don't understand this, and we've been trying to explain this to our students. So that wasn't my question, that was just
I know you have a question as well.
I do have a
Yes,
question.
yeah.
My question is, what would you say to people who are members of historically marginalized groups? Be that women, people of color, disabled people, anybody who's like, I want to get into games, but I'm not sure who I'm representing.
Please come, we need you. There's a couple organizations that have been working, they're kind of actor-led organizations. One is called the PGM Violist, one is called Voices of Color, and another one is called Queer Vox. And all of them have kind of bubbled up since the pandemic, and people are kind of looking for community and connection. And their focus has been making marginalized talent accessible. The PGM Violist has Netflix, Disney, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Apple. Like, they have a laundry list of people that have access to their database and can look at any of the talent on there and search, and we do it all the time now. And so that was one of the major things that changed over the pandemic was creating that access, because the agents weren't representing. That said, there's been a lot better representation on the agent side. They are going out and seeking marginalized talent, but it's still seeking marginalized talent that have been afforded the opportunities to get the training that they need to in order to get into there. So the lists do remove the training barrier, but the quality does vary then. And so I think programs like this are incredible, getting on groups like that. They've got a lot of classes too that they're doing. My company, the Help Network, has the Entertainment Academy, where we're also always looking to kind of uplift marginalized talent, getting into any rooms that you can, and shadowing is number one, because you can learn so much just from watching. So, yeah.
And I see that maybe we have time for one question left. One question left. I see two hands.
Two questions.
Two questions left. Here,
Yes.
there's time for two questions left. Go ahead, you two. Who would like to go first? Yes? Would you like the mic? Cheers, Piper.
Working on projection. Yeah, so my question is like social media based, because you said he looked at Instagram a lot, but like I use Instagram as a portfolio, but I use it for like one thing. So like, what are you looking for? Like, what should I post that will make me stand out for like voice acting and stuff?
In your bio, it should say who you are. It should say actor. It should say any, pronouns if you're comfortable, identity if you're comfortable, ethnicity if you're comfortable, anything, hobbies like that make you tick if you're like really into skateboarding or something. Anything like that would be really helpful to have in your bio. That way, if something you post catches my attention and I click on it, I know who you are right at the top. That's number one. Then you start following casting directors on there. There's a ton of casting directors that are way more popular than me on Instagram. They all actually, most of them have like 50,000 plus followers. They're always posting advice. They're posting, rules and things that are very different from the game world. So I actually follow a lot of them too, just kind of learn about TV casting or commercial casting or whatever it may be. So it's not really about what you post. It's posting often enough that the algorithm picks up, that you are posting. But at the end of the day, it's just making sure that once we get to your profile, we can email you, that there's an email button on there, and that we know who you are and kind of what you're about in that bio.
Okay, sounds good.
Maria, would you like the mic? Yeah.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
My question is, we were talking in class the other day about like when we do something for mocap, and then if they pay you double or more and they keep your data for 30 years or more, I know everyone's opinion is different, but I want to know what you think about that. Is it worth it?
Buyouts.
That.
I'm trying to think of how to eloquently answer this. Everyone has all my data, so that's kind of my opinion on it. In terms of, I think it can be scarier than it seems. The usage of that material isn't going to be very useful after a certain amount of time. And especially depending on the purposes, it kind of depends on what you're recording. But if you're recording data for a game and they want to buy it out, it's the main reason that they want to buy it out is because they don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to continue to pay. And games especially, there's no aftermarket. So we don't have any syndication. And so a buyout is hugely helpful in making sure that you're compensated properly and that nobody has to worry about it after it's in the bargain bin or after it gets, sold to 12 different people. But the data from really the only stuff that was done from the data from Last of Us 1 was upgraded, right? In this new Last of Us re-release. In order to get more voices and stuff, they would have to hire them to come back in again and enhance that data. So I wouldn't be too scared of the buyout. I think the things that actors should be mindful of in the kind of AI world is making sure that you understand when you're recording for AI projects and when you're recording your whole voice, because that is an area. Proprietary moves like dances is definitely an area where there's some kind of it's a gray area, and there's a lot of proprietary kind of ownership conversations going on about, the creation of dance moves and stuff like that. But in general, the movement that you're doing for a specific role on a motion capture stage as a buyout is probably not a huge concern.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I want to say a couple of thank yous. There's a whole team of people behind the scenes who made this possible. There's an amazing crew supporting us tonight. Vanessa, Michelle, Elena, all kinds of folks, as well as Omari as well, too. Thanks so much to everyone who made it possible. And the biggest thank you of all, thanks to Julia. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you guys so
Please join
much.
me in thanking Julia.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. This is awesome.